Kentucky, Connecticut, Final Four action. Who do you like and why?
I like Connecticut, and RJ, this is real simple. To me, I think the value is all with Connecticut. I think this is a public perception line. You know, this is what I thought the line would come out, but personally, I'll be honest with you, I think Connecticut should be the favorite in this game.
So your true line has Connecticut as the favorite. All right, so one thing that I think as the games get even more public, and Final Four is going to be the most public of all college basketball games, that the very act that a team is the favorite causes them to get action. It's one thing for you, a handicapper, to say, you know, I think Kentucky's at least as good, or Connecticut's at least as good, or a slight favorite, and you're making an assessment comparing your number, comparing Kentucky's number, or your Connecticut number, your Kentucky number, how they match up. Most of these people don't have any real sense. They might have watched half of a game Kentucky played, a half of a game Connecticut played. The very fact Kentucky is a marquee name and they're the favorite, I think they're inherently going to get some action, which I think that pushes me towards the dog in general.
What I'm looking at this game, we've used the expression with the podcast that me and you have done numerous times. The public handicaps with their eyes. And what they're looking at is last week, Kentucky beat Ohio State, which was, you know, the class of this year's tournament. They were the true number one seed of the number ones. Then they beat North Carolina, one of the most storied, you know, franchises in college basketball. They look at Connecticut, and Connecticut had tight games with San Diego State, who was a highly ranked team, but a newcomer to the dance. I mean, San Diego State just busted onto the scene this year. In Arizona, they were life and death Saturday with them. So to me, John Q. Public sits back and looks and says, Kentucky had much easier, impressive wins, and now they're playing a Connecticut team out of the Big East that took a little bit of a black eye in this tournament because everybody's saying, oh, the Big East.
A little bit of a black eye.
Well, you know, again, you know, I understand that they only got one team left. They put 11 of them in here. You can't.
But being put in was a subjective call. That's the whole point, is if somehow, some way, every team started playing the NCAA tournament, and then eventually when you got down to 64, if they would have had 11, you would have said, heck, they earned 11. But it's subjective. So unless you think that the committee doesn't ever make a mistake, I think the dispute is that 11th team in the Big East, is that 10th team better than, you know, whoever else was left off the bubble?
I definitely say that probably the 10th and 11th team, there could have been a debate on them. But the fact is, there was 11. It has been one of the best conferences throughout the year. And the fact is, here we are in the Final Four, the team that actually won the conference tournament, that was playing the best ball at the end of the season, won the Big East tournament, and now they are the team that's in the Final Four.
You didn't think Connecticut was playing the best ball at the end of the season. You had Pitt as a future bet.
I did have Pitt as a future bet, and, you know, and boy, if they could have got that last foul shot with seeing what Butler went through, we could have Pitt here. But Connecticut did beat Pitt in the Big East tournament. So I like the fact that both teams are peaking at the right time. We've talked numerous times about the Kentucky program, how think back to the beginning of the season. This team had one returning starter. For all the things you want to say bad about John Calipari and his programs and the tarnish that happens wherever he goes, the fact remains the guy knows how to coach. He took a team that he basically built from scratch this year, and from week one to where we're at now in the Final Four, this team has gotten better every single week.
To me, there's three takeaways from this tournament. One is what you were talking about, is if you can find a young team that played relatively better late in the season than early in the season, it throws a lot of the computers off. They don't quite know how to handle that. All they know is they know, hey, Kentucky lost, whatever number of games in November, whatever number in December. So, yeah, sometimes it's going to be weighted to the more recent games with the computer modeling. But in general, I like a young team that's trending upwards. You have that with Kentucky. Not so much with Connecticut, I don't think. I love experienced coaches specifically NCAA tournament experience. Well, we got 2 A-pluses when it comes to that. And lastly, I like a team that's hot. And that's counterintuitive to the typical wise guy approach, which is typically it's, like you always say, fade what you've most recently seen because it's being over-considered. I don't think you can necessarily do that in the NCAA tournament because momentum is so important. Well, you've got to, by definition, if you've gotten to the Final Four, you're hot.
Right.
I think that applies more early. So as I look at this, I want to lean towards Kentucky simply because they've got all 3 of the things I like, where Connecticut has 2. Now, someone else might say having a superstar that you can really lean on when it's a 1-point game late, and maybe Connecticut has the advantage there. So let me ask you a question, though. That Ohio State win that Kentucky had might have been the most impressive win of the tournament, or if we assume Ohio State was the best team, then it certainly was the most difficult win of the tournament. I also thought Kentucky played a very poor game relatively against North Carolina. So maybe that's my first question. How do you rate that Ohio State win? And number 2, how do you rate that North Carolina win? What did you see with your eyes?
I agree with you on the Ohio State game. North Carolina has been a team all year that's kind of been a little bit of an enigma. You look at what they did in the ACC tournament where they trailed in most of their games, the whole game, and then pulled out a win at the end.
But looking at the game, did you think if Kentucky played NC again, who do you bet there?
Well, unfortunately, I bet North Carolina on Sunday. So, I thought North Carolina, would be the better team on Sunday, again, because I was shocked that Kentucky came out the favorite in that game against the number 2 seed.
So let me ask you, watching the game, would you be less or more inclined to back North Carolina? Because it feels like North Carolina played about as good as played well, certainly above average.
They played, from the games that I've seen of North Carolina, that's pretty much what I've seen, the games that I happen to see of North Carolina.
And how would you rate how Kentucky played?
I thought Kentucky played good. They led pretty much the entire game.
It seemed like, well, I guess to some degree this does, if you're just seeing the opposite I'm seeing, we're not going to meet in the middle. I'm not saying look at the scoreboard and tell me what the score was. Clearly they won the game. It seems like North Carolina made a majority of the plays that are a sign of a good basketball team, and Kentucky made a lot of 3-pointers pretty much. And that's part of one game, and hey, they got to move on. So,
but going back to North Carolina, part of the fact that Kentucky was able to drill those 3-pointers, North Carolina's defense was not good all year. They gave up a higher percentage of shots. They had a lot of high-scoring games. So that, to me, was when I'm talking they were in the norm, where today when they play a Connecticut team, this team plays defense. They play very good defense, and it's going to be tougher for Kentucky to get those open looks. Kentucky's going to need to play a game like they played against Ohio State to beat Connecticut on Saturday.
All right. What's your official projection?
My official projection is Connecticut 73-68, and I'm going to go ahead and make this my best bet. Make it Connecticut on Saturday to move on to the championship game on Sunday.
Okay.
All
Sounds
right.
good. So are we giving away a coupon?
We are.
Awesome. All right. So whenever there's a best bet, each week you give one a week on your videos. We also give a $10 coupon away. Hit it.
Well, it's Final Four, so the coupon's real simple. The word final and the number 4. Put that in at the checkout.
So it's the number 4.
The number 4.
How many spaces?
No spaces. It's all
Any
together.
capitalization?
All caps. But it works either way. We set them up that way.
All right. Any closing thoughts?
Enjoy the games.
So with that coupon, you go to the shopping cart, you pick what you want, you pick your picks, go to your shopping cart, and you got a little space for the coupon.
Absolutely. I got one guy I'm a personal favorite of.
It's your turn to continue the conversation in the comment section with Marco and me. And next up, Marco has 3 Major League Baseball future bets, 2 win totals, 1 World Series future, and in the 4th video we're going to do those 3. And we're going to tell you how you can match Marco and win $10,000 in cash this baseball season.